In this short video, I'm going to speak about the sun moving into Sidereal Scorpio. So if you follow the tropical zodiac, of course, the sun has already moved into Scorpio. And we talk about this in terms of the seasons and for most of the people on the planet and the Northern Hemisphere. But in the sidereal system, more closely aligned with the actual constellations, the sun is just about to move in. So it moves in on the 16th of November until the 15th of December. So this month, and the sun moves signs mid-month in the sidereal zodiac all year long. So you can see here the sun is at 29 degrees and 3 minutes as I record this of sidereal Libra. And so the good news here is that the sun is moving out of its sign of debilitation, its weakest placement in Libra, and moving into a strong position in Scorpio. Now, even though that is the case, the sun in Scorpio is not an obvious strength. It's a hidden strength. It's an internal strength. But that can be externalized in very obvious ways as well. And that will especially be the case once Mars also moves into Scorpio by December 4th, just on the day of the eclipse in Scorpio. So there's a lot going on in Scorpio in the coming weeks. And that means a lot of changes because Scorpio is the natural sign of change. It is the natural 8th sign of the zodiac. However, the change in Scorpio is not easy because if you know anyone that's very Scorpio, like planets here or rising or moon sign here, you know that they're always going through a process of change, but it's not easy for them. They resist that change as much as go through the change. But the way I see it is the resistance itself is part and parcel of the change. So we cannot really change unless we change internally. External changes are not really going to cut it with Scorpio. It's really more about this deep inner changes that go on, whether it's psychological changes or whatever you want to call it. Now, the most obvious people who go through that most obviously are those with rising and moon sign Scorpio. But even if you have some planets here, if you have more than one planet here, you have a lot of this Scorpio in you. So the sun now moving in and then subsequently Mars moving into Scorpio shows that there is a lot that's going on in the next few weeks and a lot of strength available also. But again, it's more internal initially. Mars tends to externalize things, like I said, so that will kick in more so in December and in January. But you can see something else here in Scorpio. We have Ketu, the south node of the moon. And this is why we're having an eclipse on December 4th, a total solar eclipse. So as the sun moves in, it's going to be eclipsed. And so this complicates things somewhat. So if I show you here from tomorrow, the sun on November 16th is now in Scorpio. And again, although the sun is stronger in Scorpio than it was in Libra, and Libra's its sign of weakness, where we have to compromise, where we have to think about others, where the self is found through the other in the world and lost in the world in many ways, which is why it's seen as weak. In Scorpio, it's about connecting in with ourselves again and our own needs, which is what Mars is all about. And you could say our own selfish needs, small s self, but it's also about our big S self when the sun gets involved. So it's really connecting to our higher self in many ways. And that trickles down into a more confident and assured sense of self, and the actions we take subsequently, i.e. when Mars moves in December, feel more assured and confident, and we can plan and do things more confidently. Now, this might not seem at all the case right now. You might feel, well, I don't see any of that going on. I don't feel that way, but it hasn't actually moved yet. This is the thing. So once it moves, and especially by December, once Mars moves, there's a lot more confidence and assurity and action that's going to be taken. Now, this will obviously be reflected in the world around us, in governments, for example, taking more confident actions towards dealing with things, towards dealing with crises and things like that, because Scorpio is all about problems also. That's the other thing. So it's about more than anything, removing problems so that we can feel strong. The strengths again are more internal, And this process of transformation and the resistance to change is the process of transformation. So we might resist it, but that's a way of dealing with it. And then through that process, we actually transform. And that's the key thing with Scorpio. It's a fixed sign. And so it doesn't easily transform. It doesn't easily change, yet it is the sign of change and transformation. So that's what makes it so complicated. And yet that's part and parcel of what it's all about. So it's that need to go through that, whatever that is. So now when you add the south node, Ketu here, and the eclipse, it adds further strength, but again, that's not obvious. It's more hidden, it's more internalized. And again, the strengths that are available here are more about what needs to be removed more than anything else. And also having the strengths of our weaknesses in many ways. And that literally just means to know where your weaknesses lie is just as important a strength as knowing what your strengths are. Because if you don't know where your weaknesses are, your soft spots, you know, you really are leaving yourself wide open. So that's what Scorpio is also about. It's having the strengths of our weaknesses. And so the sun's journey into Scorpio at this time of year, every year from mid-November to mid-December, is all about highlighting those things, highlighting the dark corners of our psyche, if you will. And in the world, we see this as, you know, playing out, for example, in the recent COP26. Scorpio rules fossil fuels, anything that's hidden underground. And Ketu removes things. It removes things so we can find more strength. And so Ketu in Scorpio and now this upcoming eclipse is an obvious expression, an example of COP26 and their decision to agree on at least reducing, if not completely removing, the use of coal, for example. Now, there was a lot of disappointment as well with the agreement because a couple of countries, major countries like China and India, didn't agree with the wording of the document. And instead of removing coal, they said reduction of coal. So that's a disappointment, right? But it is still a reflection of Ketu, the south node. The thing that Ketu more than anything represents is this need to remove things. Again, what stands in the way, removing it to get to a better place. Now that the sun is joining Ketu, it's about highlighting those things. And it also can obscure things for sure. This is something we have to be very mindful of because it is an eclipse. But ultimately, we have greater insight and more depth and awareness of the problems. And that's always a good thing. When we know about a problem, we can more easily manage it, deal with it, change it, move on from it, get rid of it. You know, so all of these things are indicated in the coming weeks with Sun now moving into Scorpio.